everyone, George Farmer here, and I'm here today at Dennerle HQ in Germany to set up this aquarium using Dennerle plants and products. I can't wait to get underway. It's going to be a really good aquascape and I really hope you enjoy the show. So the first thing I'm going to do is install my wood. It's Mapani wood and it's quite chunky, but I've selected some quite slender pointy pieces. The idea is to create quite a lot of vertical elements to the aquascape. Okay, so that's the wood positioned pretty much how I want it to be. I can do some final adjustments later on. And the next step is going to be actually adding a little bit of soil around the sides and the back. And then on top of the soil I'll add some rocks. So next I'm just going to use a paintbrush and just literally paint the soil where I want it to go. So I'm going to have it sloping more steeply towards the rear and more shallow at the front. That helps create an extra sense of depth. It also allows, if you want to plant heavier rooted plants in the background. I'm deliberately leaving an open space at the front and I'm going to use some cosmetic gravel at the front there. I'm not planting to that at all. Okay, our next step is to add some stones. And I'm going to add some stones as a barrier in between the soil and the front area there. And that's going to help prevent any soil migration onto the open gravel at the front. Choose our stones really carefully. I've got some lovely stones here. I've actually smashed up some big rocks into smaller ones to get ideal sizes, and I'm just going to position them really carefully to make them look as natural as possible. Okay, so I've installed our stones and they're acting as a barrier between the soil and the front of the tank. And in the front I'm going to install some baikal gravel. So this is a 3 to 8 millimeter grain size. I've had some prepared earlier, it's been washed because it can cloud the water. And I'll just get a little handful and literally just sprinkle it around the front of the aquarium. Okay, so I've added the baikal gravel in front of the stones. And I've actually inserted it all the way in the crevices and hopefully create a really nice natural effect once it's full of water. Okay, next step is actually going to add a little bit more soil to the back. It's not very deep, it's only 5 centimetres right at the back, and I'm going to take it up to probably about 8 or 10 centimetres. That's going to add a really good sense of depth. Okay, our next step is to wet the soil to make it much easier to plant into. So I've got a spray mister here. That's going to make the soil nice and wet. Okay, so we've wet our soil now, we're ready to plant, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the plants we're using, and then I'm going to introduce you to someone really special in a moment who's going to talk about some really cool plants. So we're going to be mainly using low maintenance plants and lots of epiphyte plants, so plants that attach to decor. The plants that we're going to be planting into the soil are all the planted in vitro Dennerle plants. So we've got some beautiful Cryptocorini lutea hobbit, which is a lovely small Cryptocorini which has a beautiful colour, almost like a greeny brown-red tinge to it. We've got Cryptocorini wendetii compact, which is like a smaller version of the standard wendetii. And also a classic Aleacaris, the Aleacaris bacilla, which stays relatively short and is really easy to carpet in relatively low energy setups. And I'm going to plant that all around the substrate, mix it up a little bit to create some really complex textures, and it'll look really effective. Next I'm going to introduce a real legend to the hobby, the Plantahunter, otherwise known as Stefan Hummel, and he's going to talk about some beautiful new plants to the hobby.
So first of all I will show you some anubias. Here we have the Anubias Nana Bonsai. Maybe this one is also in the market for many years. But it's a very nice little Anubias. And we found last year a mutation of Anubias Nana Bonsai. This is Anubias pangolino. It's very special and with very thin, small leaves. And maybe it's the smallest Anubias in the world. and it's very nice for little scapes, for stones and woods. I show you some Bucephalandra from Borneo. Bucephalandra is a very new plant for the aquarium. We found the habitat in Borneo is very special and very rare. You can find in the jungle many types of Araceae, like Anubias, it's the same family, like Cryptocarine. And we found the Bucephalandra, the small one, we call it wavy leaf. And we collect some plants and bring it in our lab. And so we can produce from one plant from Borneo now in 1,000 pieces every time. So it's very safe, it's a nature. And the smallest one is this, we call it the mini needle leaf. It's very nice, grows very slowly. And this is our newest one called brownie. It's a very, very small Bucephalandra with nice leaves and reddish stems sometimes. Grows also very slowly. With a very funny name, Schismatoglotis rosea spata, also from the family Araceae. Over the water, this plant grows very big, maybe this size, but underwater, with very nice, small, submerged leaves. Looks a little bit like a Cryptocarine, and you can put it in the gravel or put it on stone over. So this is all from Borneo, and now we have a very interesting thing. Looks like a moss, but it's an endemic fern from India, southwest India. We are this year in January in India, Kerala, and we found this in a very small, top secret area with our Indian guide, and this is an end size of the fern, and it's very nice for aquascaping in small tanks and grows also very slowly. Maybe need a little bit more shade like other plants, but yeah, it's very easy. So this is our fine selection from new plants.
Okay, first plant I'm going to use is Cryptocarine Wendertii compact. I've already prepared it. It's in vitro, so it needs separating from its agar jelly and then separating into individual portions. You can split it up into as many portions as you can for better coverage, but for ease of use today, I'm keeping them quite large bunches. So I've got the portion there, put it in between my tweezers, and then push it into the soil gently. And then lift out the tweezers, and hopefully the plant will stay there. Now this is going to be the tallest plant, so I'm going to plant this around the background. Next I'm going to plant the Cryptocarine lutea hobbit. So this will remain really short and the leaf colour will actually change over time. Beautiful little plant. I'm just going to plant that same sort of way as before with the Cryptocarine Wendertii compact. One of the advantages of in vitro plants, they're guaranteed to be free from algae, snails and pesticide free as well. So they're a really good plant for aquascapers. You also get a lot for your money. So they might be smaller than regular plants, but you get more of them. Definitely my favourite type of plant. Okay, last plant I'm going to use in the substrate is the Eleocharis pusilla in vitro version, and I'll split it up into individual portions, and the same technique as before. Push it into the soil with your tweezers, gently remove your tweezers, and it will hopefully stay in place. In vitro plants tend to have very small root structures, especially Eleocharis, so you might need to bury it a little bit further than you might think, just to help anchor it into the soil. If you do get any floaters when you fill the aquarium up with water, you can simply replant. It shouldn't be a problem. So I'm planting the Eleocharis in between the Cryptocorynes, and hopefully it will end up being a really kind of complex texture of colours and forms, and really help create this natural effect. And this is a fairly slow growing Eleocharis, so it won't hopefully smother the crypts, and it's not very demanding in terms of light either, so if the crypts do overshadow it, it shouldn't cause a problem. So we've planted all the plants we need to into our soil. Now we're ready to attach our epiphyte plants. The first plant I'm going to use, I'm really excited about. It's the first time I've ever seen it today, and it's called Schismatoglottis roseo-sparta. And I'm going to be quite lazy in attaching it. I'm just going to literally tuck it into this area here, where it should self-attach, no problem. No need for any glue or cotton thread. The roots will spread out, self-attach to the wood, and it should just creep over nicely, no problem. Okay, next we're going to use some Anubias bonsai. So it's all been prepared before, just like we do with our normal pots, removing the rock wool or the cocoa fibre. If you haven't seen my previous videos, I'll show you how to do that in those videos, so do check them out on YouTube, etc. So here we have some portions here, and I'm going to use the same technique as before and just tuck it in like so. It's really important the rhizome of Anubias doesn't get buried into the substrate. It does need some water circulating over it. There's a handy little hole here I'm hoping that will tuck into quite nicely, like so. And then the last portion, I am actually going to tuck it down here. There. And already you can see the aquascape's taken on a really mature look, and that's why I love epiphyte plants and attach them to wooden rocks. It just helps achieve this real kind of natural feel and mature look to the hardscape. Okay, I'm just going to talk a little bit more about the Schismatoglottis roseo-sparta, and I've got some beautiful photos here of the flower, and you can see why it's got its name roseo, because of the colour. So absolutely stunning plant. I feel so privileged to be able to have seen this today, so thanks so much to Stefan Hummel for giving me so much great information. Okay, next plant I'm going to use is really interesting. It looks like a moss, but it's actually like a miniature fern. Really beautiful. It's attached to some coconut shell. It's called Cubidomanes malabacarum, and it comes from a southwest Indian state called Kerala. So just for ease and instant aquascaping effect, I'm just going to insert these pieces straight into the foreground area. And it just shows how you can create instant impact in an aquascape without much effort at all. Perfect for beginners, for guys like me that want to create a high impact aquascape almost immediately. Next plant I'm going to attach to the wood is Anubias pangolino. Absolutely adore this plant. It's probably the smallest Anubias in the world, and using a very similar technique as before, I'm just going to poke it into the area, it will just self-attach, and we get that instant impact that I was talking about earlier. It's a real treat to be able to use these plants from Dennerle today. Some really, really beautiful species. Next plant I'm going to use attaching to the wood is a really, really trendy species at the moment, Bucephalandra. This is Bucephalandra wavy leaf, for obvious reasons. The leaves have got a wavy pattern to them. All Dennerle obviously. So exactly the same technique as before. find a suitable position and then just insert it. Next I'm going to plant some Bucephalandra mini needle leaf. It's my actual favourite Bucephalandra species. Really small, very slow growing. And again I'm just going to poke it in some areas around the foreground where it should self-attach. So the next plant I'm going to use is Bucephalandra brownie. This is really new to the hobby, very small leaf structure, beautiful. We'll go a more brown colour as it develops. And to do that, to attach it to the wood, I'm actually going to use some super glue. So to do that, remove the lid very carefully and then gently apply only a small tiny dot of super glue, and that should be enough to attach your plant. Super glue does tend to go white underwater and looks really unsightly, so it's important to cover as much of it as you can up, and be careful not to glue your finger to the wood or the plant. There we go, and I'm just going to repeat that process. You can get a gel type of super glue which is has a thicker consistency, which is less prone to running, so you might want to consider using that. Last piece of the Bucephalandra brownie, just here on the right. Okay, next I'm going to plant some Bucephalandra broad wavy, another beautiful Bucephalandra species. And there's a little hole here, you probably can't see it in the video, but I'm just going to add a little bit of super glue in there, and then the plant should attach really easily. And now another small hole here, using exactly the same technique. One of the great things about Bucephalandra, it's so slow growing, so it's very low maintenance. All the plants here are slow growing, except potentially the Eleocharis, but that's going to be overshaded by the Cryptocorini, so that should slow the growth down of that. I'd expect this aquascape to look really good in 3 to 4 months' time. Okay, the planting is really nearly complete now. I've got one tiny portion of Anubias pangolino to attach to this piece of wood here. So again, using our super glue, just a small drop on the surface. And then offer up our Anubias. Okay, that's the aquascape complete, guys. We just need to fill it up. We're going to do that later on. I've really enjoyed the process. I've used some amazing plants, so thanks so much to Stefan and to Patrick for showing me around and letting me use their great facilities. I think it's a beautiful tank. It's just going to get better as it goes along, and I'm really excited to see its progress. So thanks guys.
Thanks George for being with us, and we really enjoyed the day with you, and this tank will be at our boss office.
Excellent.
We will enjoy that.
Cool.
Okay.
See you.
See ya.
Okay, take care. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.
Bye bye.